A game we can all play, and in fact, we are always playing. We're always playing it. It's called life. And it's ruled from our hearts, which I must say is right up my aorta. My aorta. Please let me clarify aorta. Excuse me. Whew, it's warm up here. This is a sacred place, so I can place it there. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to talk about the aorta of our human heart as a metaphor. The aorta of the human heart is a vessel through which oxygen-rich blood travels from the heart to the rest of the body. Many of us know that. And it's the aorta which ensures that the nutrients in the blood, that they reach the internal organs and supporting tissue, from internal to external. Living from the heart, metaphysically, is more than just about surviving. It's thriving. I don't want to just survive. I've been there. And I changed my just surviving attitude. And it was at that moment when I was brave that I began to thrive. Living from the heart is cause to you showing up in a more authentic way. How do we know it's authentic? Because you can feel it. It's coming from the inner, not from outside influences or stimulus. Now, I like those too. I like the smell of a good entree coming my way. But for us to be authentic within our spiritual selves is to come from the inner. There's a comfort and an ease and a joy that one feels and others see when we're being authentic. I'm showing up today in my own unique and authentic and easy way. Sort of a Texas GQ blend. Sherry Lane Coyle calls me Reverend GQ. And that kind of fits, doesn't it? Kind of fits me. I say yes to that. Something happens inside me when I put on my boots and my hat, and it feels real good. So, beloved partners, let the name of the game begin. And the name of the game is Love Your Authenticity. For today's game, I've selected 3 areas of living and loving for your consideration. The first, I'll name all 3 first. Self-judgment, comparison, and development. Salute. Let's begin with self-judgment. Don't we always? I know I do. Oh, yeah. Byron Katie, a woman who I was pleased to meet many years ago, in her book, Loving What Is, shares this in chapter 7. And I quote, this talks about her grandson. It's her story, and I'm going to share her story because I think it really fits. 1 year for his birthday, I bought my grandson, Race, a plastic Darth Vader toy because he asked for it. He had just turned 3. He didn't have a clue about Star Wars, even though he wanted the Darth Vader toy. When you put a coin into Darth Vader, you hear the Star Wars music and Darth Vader's heavy breathing. Then his voice says, "Impressive, but you are not a Jedi yet." And he lifts his sword as if to emphasize the point. You are not a Jedi yet. After Racy heard the voice, he said, Grandma, I'm not a Jedi. And shook his little head. I said, honey, you can be Grandma's little Jedi. And he said, I not. Grandma, I not. She goes on to say, many of us judge ourselves as relentlessly as that plastic toy play its recording, telling ourselves over and over again that we are not. All this does is reinforce self-doubt and feelings of less than. How many of us do the same, search for the same thing, knowing it's not what we want? And when we get it, oh, that not. Ooh, that not. So instead of self-doubt going round and round and round and round and round in your mind, turn it around. Turn it around. Step it up, let it out, and tell it to, get along, doggy. Get along, doggy. So from self-judgment, let's move into comparison. This is the meat in the sandwich, comparison. Now the definition of the word comparison is a consideration or estimate of the similarities or dissimilarities between two things or people. I found that comparison is effective whenever and wherever it's used for observation. Not as a more, less, better, worse. Oh, you're going to wear that? Ooh. I mean, there's all kinds of ways we get into comparison, beginning with self-judgment, and then we begin to look out, compare ourselves, maybe many times in the same manner in which we're judging ourselves, right? It's better as a reference tool, this comparison. After the campfire, many of us had our lives changed. Well, all of us had our lives changed. But my partner James and I, we were invited to join a dinner group that had been going on for a few years. And they welcomed us in. It was really wonderful. It was very loving. And their intention was to feed our hearts, our souls, and of course our bodies. As most often the case, the host's home rotates and provides a theme and an entree, and the other members provide all the sides. Any of you ever done that? I mean, most of us have said, oh, what can I bring? So this is like once every couple of months, the same group gets together. It's really delicious. It's always filled with good food, engaging conversation. So here's my point in the comparison factor. We don't compare other than to say, ooh, this is the best one ever. Or, do this one again. And I've known people that say, I won't go to so-and-so's because I'm afraid. They cook better than I do. They have a nicer house. They have chairs. That was my first resistance after the campfire. We had two camp chairs in the back of my car, but that wasn't enough quite for more than two. So by getting into comparison and reflection upon that, I have found that it's a call to remind ourselves that it's not a downer. If you get into that aspect of comparison as a greater or lesser, that it's always happening around us, but not as a competition. So as long as we're called to remind ourselves that comparison can be a balancing of our thoughts, then we can use it as a tool to lift us up, be kinder, more loving in this game of life. And like life, it's about what each of us brings to the table in the form of good. In the form of good. I talked about greater and lesser, and Ernest Holmes tells us about this idea of greater or lessers. Quote, God does not know form. God knows size. He knows, the masculine principle, is the knower of the intention, and it creates the form out of our intention, but doesn't do large or small, it just does. As Emerson said, there is no great and no small to the soul that maketh all. There isn't. It does not know anything about big or little. God cannot know anything which is contradictory to the divine being. It is impossible for the infinite to know that which is finite. The superlative cannot be the comparative. Aren't those some fancy darn words there, partners? So it's impossible for the infinite, the limitless, the impossible to measure, to know that which is finite, that with boundaries, that with limitations. The superlative, the highest quality, cannot be the comparative, which is perceivable, perceptible by comparison. So the superlative, the infinite, doesn't know anything about that. We just have to give it up, give it over. Be brave, let it go. And let the superlative, I love that word, the superior intelligence to manifest for us. So, comparison is best utilized as an observation, a reaction of mind in order to see what else is available. Comparison, when used as a tool or reference, has the ability to become a conscious intention for you and I. And you're invited to not get stuck in the rut of, I don't measure up. The rut of, I don't measure up. Anyone ever start anything and have the feeling, I'm not sure I can do it as well as? I have, yeah. Yeah, I don't measure up. And I know from this morning, we have a lot of voices in this room, people who sing. And I love each voice I hear, especially like in our particular center. It comes from the authentic place. It comes with feeling, it comes with intent, and it comes with love. So I thank you for your voices here. You always measure up. I know that when you're busy enjoying your authentic self, that's when your spiritual self radiates itself. Love yourself enough to allow you to be seen and enjoyed, and yes, heard. Come along, doggy. Come along. I'm letting you out. Those I don't measure ups. Go away, little doggy. I don't want you anymore because I know the truth. Because you do measure up. Yes, it's good to let your love out. It's good to let your love out. I'm looking around the room, and maybe beyond. I sense beyond that there is so much love to give, and the game of life is about letting that love, that gift, out. It's important to nurture that, your authentic self, so that it may grow, that it may expand. Where? Where first? In your consciousness. And then in that connection, in the universal consciousness with all others. Let it out. Remember, we can love others only as much as we love ourselves. I ask this often. How do you love yourself? What ways do you nurture yourself? What do you do? What would you do if you didn't think you had something else to do? You know, I do that. It's like, well, you know, I probably should, I could, I can go do that. Let it go. Go away, doggy. It's time to nurture me. Begin by comparing within yourselves when you start to really consider a deeper nurturing. Just how much you love. And how and where else this love might be provided. As you do, you'll begin noticing all of us, we are equally prepared and measured. In Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, she implores, I love this, we need more real love. Gritty, dangerous, wild-eyed, justice-seeking love. You like that? We need more real love. Gritty, dangerous, wild-eyed, justice-seeking love. Wild-eyed. The third aspect of this is the development. What in your life is being developed? There's always something in production. There's always something evolving. There's always something moving into our lives. What is that for you? What have you set in motion? Well, here's one thing right here. Being here. And I always ask myself, who am I going to see here today? And I've had, everybody's a pleasant surprise. Everybody, because you never know. And my intention is to see everyone with an equal amount of enthusiasm. Without the, oh, look what they're wearing. Oh. There's always something good to see and say when you come from a place of love. So Ernest Holmes tells us, in the saying that no man puts a piece of new cloth on an old garment or new wine in old bottles, Jesus was teaching a lesson in religious development. Wine. Clothes. Jesus was teaching a lesson in religious development. And we are continually living a new life. And when the old and the new do not fit nicely together, guess what happens? The old, being no longer able to contain the new, should be discarded. Continually, we must expect new revelations of old truths, which to me means that it might have been true a minute ago, or last week or last month. But maybe it's not true today. Maybe you've outgrown that, whatever that was or is. Maybe it's time to break away from that, move ahead. Continually, he goes on to say, we must expect new revelations of the old truth. We should never lose sight of the fact that the soul is on the pathway of an endless and ever-expanding experience, and that we convert it into a greater good. Mother Nature has moved into what's called autumn. It's a perfect demonstration to me of a timed release of a no longer fitting garment, which is the leaves. Does the tree hold on to the leaves, afraid to let go? I don't think so. Has anyone ever asked the tree? Who's a tree whisperer? I don't know. But I don't think that the tree holds on. If so, tree's not very successful. So I don't believe that happens with a tree. Those leaves were last season's demonstration. And the tree, living in complete trust and love of its development, is awaiting the new, the greater glory and magnificence of its springtime. So why wouldn't it say, goodbye, goodbye, vámonos, goodbye, you're out of here. The tree's aorta is its taproot, well connected, supplying all the tree ever needs, just like our heart, our aorta, and all of its vessels. To be more like a tree. That means just to stand here. Oh, to be a tree. Oh, to be a tree. But to be in that consciousness of when the timing is right to let something go, let it go. We all know when that time is. Now your friends will say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. I'm warning you, you shouldn't. I had to let it go. I've done that. The tree to stand there in perfect faith and trust alongside other trees, not comparing. You know, is that aspen better than this magnolia? I don't think they do that. But rather, adding its uniqueness to the others. Not judging the shape, the size, the color of the other tree's foliage, or even its own. Just standing there, being. Knowing what it's made for. What are you made for? What are you made for? So, partners, what are you made for? What do you want to be different? To break into the magnificence of your authenticity? Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great? Would it be great? Yeah. Would it be great? Wouldn't it be great? So, what if? What if? Right on. Bless you. Bless all of us. And namaste, partners. I love you. It's time for our offertory.